think of this building as the Spanish Waldorf Astoria. Upstairs, double room, dignitary suites. Downstairs, the dance hall, the restaurant, the ladies of the evening, all the fine things to lavish the lush lifestyle. All of these things worked, and by 1895, the city was taking off. Ybor felt good about it. He was 77, and he slowly passed away. He lived a nice, long, wonderful life. And he had 4 sons that helped carry on tradition, along with friends and counterparts. Now, it was originally built as an open-air shopping arcade. Right up above our head, this originally was where all the designing and planning of the city infrastructure was done for the first 10 years of operation. Well then, once the city was really created, as far as streets, roads, waterway, and so on, that became a maternity ward known as El Bien Publico. Alright? Well, this man by the name of Avellanal, Ramon Avellanal, was considered to be Ybor's right hand. Very important, dignified, well-to-do individual, but business-oriented, and also kind and benevolent and more accepting of other races and creeds of people than most of the Cubans and Spaniards that were here. He bought the building proper and turned the whole place into El Bien Publico, basically a community clinic is what it was. Now, how many people live in Florida? How many of you have a basement in your house? You can laugh at me. Guess what? One of the reasons why this plot of land was selected was because of the elevation. There's a basement in this building. And there's one in that building. And the Cuban Club, the 4th most haunted structure there on the end on the left, also has a basement, as do some of the campus areas of HCC. The surgical success rate inside of this structure was even less than the other place. Yes, they had a 10% ratio. That means 9 out of every 10 people that went under the knife died. Very busy hospital. They realized that underneath the ground it's quite a lot cooler, isn't it? So a busy clinic that's losing a lot of people is going to keep the dead bodies where? Downstairs. The morgue and the autopsy room was below the ground. Fun, isn't it? Okay. This is where the World's Fair in Chicago comes back into play. I cannot yet prove, but I do believe, because of several facts, Ramon Avellanal was the right hand that traveled with Ybor to Chicago. He was there to visit Edison and Tesla at the electrical exhibit. He was also present and possibly may have had some interaction with H.H. Holmes. We at least know journalists used to do their jobs quite well, and that news and information came back. One of the facts about Ramon Avellanal is he was inspired in Chicago. He turned a back room of his house into an electrical workshop. How do we know this? Get this. Ramon Avellanal was one of the first 5 men in the United States of America to have an accepted patent by the U.S. government to create turn signals on automobiles. If you live in the state of Florida, you should find that terribly ironic because nobody uses a blinker in Florida. It's unbelievable. But he had a lot of tools of electricity in his house. In 1903, he gave birth to his final child, a mere 10 years after the World's Fair. That final child was a boy that he named Jose Luis Avellanal. By the age of 5, everybody in this town, including the parents, knew that something ain't right with this boy. At the age of 5, he was caught several times taking a rat, a cat, a dog, some sort of a living creature, and slaughtering it on the sidewalk. He wanted to see how they worked. He had zero remorse for taking a life of any type. When he was 8, he got angry at the kid that lived behind the house, the neighbor kid. The kid was older and was teasing him one day. Jose Luis walked inside, grabbed his pellet gun, loaded it, stuck it in the knothole in the fence, and shot the kid in the face. Blinded him for life, but he tried to kill him. At this time, when he was 8 or 9, his favorite book was none other than Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Again, truth is stranger than fiction. I'm not making this up. At the age of 12, the world changed in Ybor City. The year was 1915. Understand, back then, men had very little to do with their children. They were business people. The wife, her job was to raise the child. Well, apparently this electrical room was quite elaborate in the back of their house. 12-year-old Jose Luis would spend a lot of time in this room. One day, as the story was told to me, a kid from the neighborhood runs into the clinic. He says, "Mr. Jose, it's really important, sir. You got to come home, sir. Your wife's calling for you. It's an emergency. Get home." So he goes home. And from the documents we've read, his wife, I don't know the Spanish translation, but she looked her husband dead in the eye and says, "Do something with that boy." He goes in the back room. When he opens the door, he sees a chair in the middle of the room. Behind the chair, a big box. A bunch of copper wire connecting the chair and the box. Over on the wall, the U-shaped flip switch, just like Dr. Frankenstein used to use. How does this relate to Chicago in 1893? All right, let me play history teacher for a minute. What was Thomas Edison's greatest invention, folks? Light bulb. Call BS on your history books and whoever published it, because he stole that from a Canadian, number one. Number two, in 1893, in Chicago, what did Thomas Edison do to try to ruin Tesla? Try to prove his electricity was weak. And Thomas Edison, ladies and gentlemen, built the very first electric chair and exhibited it in Chicago. 12-year-old Jose Luis recreated it in the back room of his father's house. Oh, I almost forgot the most important part of the story. He had somehow talked the 13-year-old neighbor kid to sitting in the chair. When Ramon walked into the room, the boy was burnt with third-degree burns from head to toe, but he wasn't dead. He was still kicking in the chair. Because Jose Luis got one very, very crucial fact about how electricity works, especially in the human body. Underneath that metal helmet requires a wet sponge. Why? Water is a conduit. The one thing that made Nikolai Tesla so successful was his understanding of electricity and electrical circuitry. Electromagnetic energy. Everything in this world runs on electromagnetic energy. The human body is no different. The brain and the heart are directly connected via electrical impulses. And if you don't connect those two via that wet sponge, they don't die. It's like a microwave in reverse. Fry the exterior of the body, but nothing on the inside. Please don't feel too bad for the kid. Yes, he was highly disfigured, but he lived and he became a banker, the first banker in Ybor City. Everybody knew his story and why he was so disfigured, and everybody banked with him. He died a very wealthy man. Jose Luis gets shipped off to military school in Atlanta, Georgia. That's what he'll do to fix that boy. The military school will straighten him right up, won't it? Guess what? Military people happen to love somebody who can actually kill without blinking an eye. He was also highly obsessive-compulsive, obsessed with perfection. He was a perfect cadet by all standards. He shows back up 7 years later with a diploma and a couple medals on his chest. "Hey, Dad, I'm home." Well, his dad had to do something with him. So what does he do? He gives him a job in the morgue. Put him downstairs. Now, I'm only making an opinion here, but based on what I know, I believe he was trying to hide his son from the city. He didn't tell a soul that he returned. He worked him 7 days a week at night. His job was to take place from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., roughly, give or take. The third fact was this. This famous entertainment complex and hotel had been bought by the Spanish cigar owners. They had turned the upstairs into the finest brothel the city had to offer. Ramon, in order to keep a close eye on his kid, struck a deal with the Spanish cigar owners and housed Jose Luis in the brothel in the corner unit. We have many pictures of Jose Luis inside of that room. He bought a printing press. He had crystal balls. He had Ouija boards. He held seances. His lifelong obsession, just like Dr. Frankenstein, was to bring life back from the dead. We can confirm 18 women disappeared out of that brothel that we see dead. Where could they have possibly gone? We have another fact. We know that Jose Luis used to pay a nurse to guard the staircase so that nobody would come down and interrupt his work. Oh, he also had an incinerator that burned 365 days a year. So he had evidence disposal at his fingertips. Layer in the fact that his father was one of the most prominent men in this town and the wealthiest. He was highly protected. He also became an Egyptian shriner. You know, they do good work for kids. He was also a Freemason. And he was a member of El Ciclo Cubano, the Cuban club. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you Jose Luis may be gone, but he's only gone physically. He haunts this building ridiculously in many, many ways. One other ugly fact to layer into all of this ugliness. It goes back to that building. How many of you locals have heard about the tunnels in Ybor City? How many of you have actually seen them? I dare you to ask a politician or a lawyer or somebody of prominence in Tampa, Florida about the tunnels. They will deny it. They will act like it doesn't exist and like you're crazy for even asking. Oh, they're very real, ladies and gentlemen. Most people believe they were created by the mafia in order to run the illegal booze during Prohibition underneath the city streets. That's partially true. The reason the shotgun war days took off more than any other reason wasn't because of illegal booze. It's because the Sicilian mafia was stealing women from the country of Cuba, running them underneath the ground and selling them off as prostitutes. The sad reality is this: they can only use the tunnel system when the tide of the ocean is out. Do you have any idea how many times they got that wrong? We have no clue how many people literally died underneath the buildings in the streets of Ybor. But I'm here to tell you, I'm of the firm belief because of that fact, this entire city is really haunted. This brings us to your paranormal investigation tonight, folks. Tonight, you will have tools of the trade, just like I have in my hand. Thank you to Nikola Tesla. These are electromagnetic frequency meters. They only measure electromagnetic frequency. Are these as high-tech as what Ghost Hunters uses? No. But they're really official. I mean, terribly official. Look, it says the Ghost Meter. That's pretty doggone official. Yeah. Now look, these things run about $40 brand new. We'll even sell used ones for $30 if you want that. You know what I mean? They're not that high tech, but they only measure one thing. Sir, what's your name? Eric, step forward, please. You got a cell phone on you? Can you pull it out of your pocket and turn it on, please? All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want Eric to verify how this meter works. Watch. See the big red button? I'm going to push it and let it go. Eric, on the screen, there's a needle. Green, yellow, and red. Where does the needle sit now? Green means absolutely no reading. No energy around the circuitry right now. None. Can you see your cell phone? Is it on? Every battery produces a small vibration of electromagnetic frequency. Eric, I'm 3 inches, 6 inches away. Where's the needle? No reading. Thank you. If you touch an exit sign, there's a 12-volt battery that'll set this off. Pull it away 6 inches. No reading. Touch a socket with something plugged in. It'll go off. Pull it away 6 inches. 0 reading. This is your baseline right now. I do this out of doors, away from the building, to prove to you one thing. Not that you'll see a ghost tonight. Tom, I wish I could say that somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, "Hey, I'm dead." I can't promise you that, but I can promise you this. These meters inside of El Ciclo Cubano will behave vastly differently. That is a promise I can stand behind. And I'll leave you with this before we walk over to that building, just so we get a little understanding about electromagnetic energy and how these work. This is where the open mind is so crucial, folks. The human body operates on a frequency range of about 1/2 degree out of a scale of 100. Now wrap your mind around that. Everything you see, taste, touch, smell, and feel is within a certain range between 5 and 7 hertz. I'm sorry, 2, not 1/2, 2. 2% out of 100. How many of you hear a dog whistle when it gets blown? It's a higher frequency. You can't hear it. When your cell phone rings, do you see cellular waves bouncing from a satellite? No, but they're there. You just can't see them. That's why it's so important to remember This leader helps us find those things out of our range. Are you all ready? All right, follow me right this way. Here we go.